Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Neurodiversity at work is a concept that recognizes and embraces the diverse range of neurological differences and abilities among employees. It promotes inclusivity and encourages workplaces to value and support individuals with conditions such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other neurodivergent traits. Hello and welcome to another episode of Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host Dipshi, and today I have with me Chief Marketing Officer for Skillable, Sarah Danzl. Sarah Danzl serves as Chief Marketing Officer focused on the global marketing and go-to-market strategies for Skillable. Most recently, she was Communications Officer and Vice President of Customer Marketing at Degreed. She has been actively involved in the learning space for 15 years, leading marketing and communication efforts in both corporate and startup capacities, especially thriving in high-growth SaaS environments. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Dipshi.
We are so glad to have you here, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time. So before delving into today's topic, would you please start by introducing yourself to our listeners and tell us about your wellness journey?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Danzl. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Skillable. My wellness journey started when I was 5 and when I was diagnosed with ADHD. And since then, I have been looking for ways not only to empower myself to understand how to bring what I needed into asking for that in my corporate journey. But now that I am an executive and in a leadership position, helping my team, helping my fellow leaders, and really the industry and corporate world overall, really make the most of the space so that everyone, no matter what accessibility they need or accommodations they need, that we know how to do that, and that people who do identify as neurodiverse feel comfortable and strong in asking for what they need.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. So let's talk about today's topic. So tell us, what is neurodiversity? What does it mean, and why is it important in the workplace?
Okay. Neurodiversity is a way that the brain functions that might be considered different than average. I don't like the word normal because really, who is normal? But 1 in 5 people actually could be considered neurodivergent. Inside of being neurodivergent, there's many different things that this can be considered, or what we'll call formal diagnoses. It can be everything from autism to dyslexia to what I have, which is ADHD, to social anxiety disorders. There are many things inside of that. It's incredibly important, not only because there are so many folks that are neurodiverse, but also because diversity and inclusion is a really popular topic right now in corporate, but very much less often are we including neurodiverse in some of those inclusion conversations. So that's what I'm here to share a little bit about, is some ways that we can think about that, some of the inherent biases and ways we can overcome them. And then if you are neurodiverse, what are some strategies maybe for helping your day-to-day and feeling more effective?
Okay, and how is it important in the workplace? In what aspects can we promote neurodiversity at work?
There are so many ways we can promote neurodiversity at work. A neurodiverse person has higher than average things like creative skills, pattern recognition, memory, mathematics. So they bring this very unique and incredibly detail-oriented skill set, and many times. But when we think about what we hire for in the workforce, and when we're recruiting or when we're thinking about people for promotions, there is inherent bias. We look for really solid communication, people that are outgoing and bubbly, team players, people that can think quick on their feet, and often emotional intelligence. Unfortunately, for those of us that are neurodiverse, this doesn't always come easy. Those things are a little bit harder for us, especially in the corporate setting when we have this pressure paired with the social anxiety of maybe coming into an office or being in a team and feeling constantly on. So there's a lot of opportunity for leaders to be thinking about neurodiverse because these folks are so incredibly talented, but in some cases may require us to think a little bit differently about what the workday looks like. It starts all with knowing your people. I really believe that making accommodations and making sure that what your people need and meeting those needs is not just for people that need accessibility or that are neurodiverse or have a disability. It really should be for everyone. And that should be a thought that all corporate organizations have, is that making sure people have what they need is for all people.
Okay. And how can companies create inclusive environments for these neurodiverse employees?
I think there's a lot of things that we can do. There are some specific strategies that I can offer you that I have used or that have worked really well for my organizations and team. And I'll give you a couple. So first and foremost is be open to more flexible working hours. We all work best at different times, not just neurodiverse folks. Maybe you're more creative in the morning. Maybe you work best at night. So when we think about allowing people to work when they are best, allows a person to feel flexible to be working when they're the most capable or creative versus rigid working hours. This is also one of the reasons that going back into the office might be harder for folks that are neurodivergent. So if they could split time in an office or they could have a more remote setting, those might be things that are beneficial. I also believe that general upskilling for everyone, but especially giving neurodiverse folks the opportunity to upskill in things like communication, teamwork. This will help them know how to work best with their peers, and is honestly skills that we could all get better at. I also love the idea of having people and giving them learning opportunities different ways. So think about the recruiting process. Many times you fill out an application and you're asked to answer questions on the spot. An opportunity to show skills. Maybe it's an activity, maybe it's some sort of hands-on exercise, but giving folks the opportunity to show or demonstrate their skills is going to become increasingly important, not just for neurodiverse folks, but for the workforce in its entirety. And then one personal idea, my team has a tool called user manuals. It is something that I have created for myself, but now also ask all of my teams to fill out. And it's this really neat idea that there's some people that are uncomfortable, self-diagnosing or self-selecting that they're neurodiverse. But the reality is we need to know our people first. We have to think of our people as humans with a variety of needs, no matter who they are or how they identify. And so a user manual asks questions like, how do you like to receive feedback? When do you work best? How do you like to be communicated with? How do you like to feel rewarded? And allowing a person to identify those answers in a safe space, such as a Word document or a PowerPoint slide, allows them to share what their preferences are without having to openly identify if that is their choice. So those are just a few ideas.
Yeah, and I believe if companies start putting those ideas into action, it will be a better workplace culture. They'll promote a better workplace culture for all employees, right?
I agree. Yes.
The work environment is also going to be very healthy.
Yes, I hope so, right? We want everyone to feel psychologically safe. We want everyone to bring their best selves to work, not only for them to feel great, but also for productivity and efficiency inside. And when people feel like they can be their true selves at work, we will get the best work out of everybody, no matter how they identify.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So what challenges do neurodiverse employees commonly face which hamper their well-being? And how can these challenges be addressed?
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about some of the challenges. We often struggle with things like emotional intelligence. Reading body language can be very difficult. Quick in the moment thinking. I joke with my boss, and I'm very open about being neurodivergent, but I joke with my boss that I either have incredibly productive days where I work for way too many hours on end without taking a break, or I don't get much done because my brain is either thinking a lot or processing a lot. So those are just some of the things that make it really hard. For folks that are neurodivergent, I think just some recommendations. Look for companies that talk about inclusivity and diversity, including neurodivergence. We are just scraping the edge, I would say, of some of these topics, which is great. But the more that we can talk about it, the more that we can just emphasize people first as an approach for work, the better that we will be. I also think things like AI are really great to get started on things like resumes or answering application questions, because they take some of that initial fear out, and then you can customize them for yourself, adding your own tone, your own personalization to it, but AI gets you started, which is really nice. Sometimes it's hard to get started when you're neurodiverse because your brain has lots of ideas or has no ideas. So this sometimes gets you off the ground. I also like to take a lot of breaks. I have a reminder on my phone to work for 90-minute intervals and then to take a break and to change my surroundings. This is actually a great practice for wellness in general, is to change your environment, to change your settings, to get in a new mindset for your next round of work. So take breaks, set reminders. I also really like time blocking as a practice. Helps me get very focused on one thing for a certain amount of time and then move on to the next to be sure that I don't get frustrated at the end of the day that I haven't checked anything off my to-do list. And perhaps most importantly, I think be clear on what you need. It can be very scary to communicate that you have different needs. And many cultures also still have lots of stigma around accessibility, disability, neurodivergence. So I think the more we can get strong, the more we can have incredible conversations like this and empower corporate wellness organizations to think about neurodivergence, the better we will all be.
Yes, and I believe not many of us are well equipped with the knowledge of neurodiversity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for that, to spread that knowledge and spread the awareness, so how can employers promote understanding of neurodiversity among all employees?
I love that. I think the start is talking about it. We just have to stop treating people that need a little bit of a different accommodation or need a little bit of extra support as different or as something to be ashamed of. It's not. The reality is you don't have to be neurodivergent or have a disability to need an accommodation. Everyone works better at different times throughout the day. Everyone is more creative at certain times. Everyone feels more up and happy and outgoing at different times. And it goes for even people that are introverted or extroverted. We all have preferences. And I think the more we can just talk about preferences being okay and be accommodating of those, the better we will be. There's also some incredible organizations out there. There's the Neurodiverse Network out of Australia that is doing some incredible work and offering resources both for people who are neurodivergent, but also coaching actual corporations on what this looks like and offering support. But I think the most important thing is to talk about it. The more that we cannot shy away from these subjects and treat them like humans and that they are incredible, smart, brilliant, capable humans, the better we will continue to be while breaking down those barriers.
Mm-hmm. And what specific adjustments can be made to support these individuals at work?
Couple of specific ideas I believe are allowing for flexible work schedules. That's a really important one. I think the providing lots of learning opportunities is another in those core, what the industry often calls soft or power skills, like communication, like teamwork. I go back to the ability to showcase work differently. We often have to write something or we take a course or we go to a class, but this might not be comfortable for everyone. So offering people a variety of modalities for learning and growth and demonstrating skills by performance instead of just always some of the more informal methodologies could be really, really good. But also at the core of it is asking. Don't force your folks to self-select or opt into that, but give them a safe way to communicate with you about what they need. And that starts with simply asking. It starts with simply asking, how do you like feedback? How may I give you a reward when you do a really great job? How do you like to communicate best? What hours work best for you when working? And just start having those conversations. But it genuinely starts with just talking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sarah. So with this, we almost come to the end of today's session. So last but not the least, would you like to share some valuable tips and suggestions to our listeners regarding neurodiversity?
Absolutely. Be inclusive. Be thoughtful. It's hard. We feel often in society right now that we have to be delicate with our words, but remember that everybody is a human. Everybody is on a different path. Be kind, be accepting. One of my favorite quotes is to be kind always, because you never know what battle someone has going on behind the scenes. And I love that. I think these sparks of neurodiversity can be exactly what teams need to reach the next level, whether it's project management, whether it's creativity, whether it's data. These are all things that all teams need. So just be open, be kind, be thoughtful, be inclusive in your words and actions, and we will live in a better world.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing these wonderful suggestions. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. The entire session was very insightful. I'm really glad that I could host you today. And I hope you also had a pretty good experience.
Yes. Thank you, Dipshi. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.